think you can really look at a piece and at the richness's potential that is a piece, and really to try to enlighten it on a certain point of view. And this makes then a lot of sense, because if you succeed, and you don't succeed all the time, but then it justifies that this or that person goes on stage, and not just one of the 50 colleagues that would play the same piece at the same moment for the same audience. And then I think it makes sense that a certain audience meets with a certain person at a given moment. Therefore, I think that the choices in the interpretation, the choices in terms of programming, and the choices in terms of acting, what will you do in a musical life, which kind of action, with which kind of people, with which people in the different professions you work with, will you choose, because you believe to a certain amount of things. There are strong choices, and this can really, I think, give a sense to what we do. That can be a very strong thing somewhere.
Maestro Jourdan, the audiences that you've dealt with in Germany, first of all, in those, or the German-speaking lands, you're going to be going to France a little more, in America. How are the audiences different from place to place for the music that we know and love?
Germans are a little more serious.
Germans are a little more serious. You're not surprised to hear that, are you?
No. Probably would say there's a difference between European and American audiences very, very clearly.
American audiences stand up much faster.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they go away much
That's
faster.
That's the other thing. Right.
What's the last piece you're playing tomorrow night? What's the last?
The Smetana, from the Bohemia's Forest.
From Bohemia's Woods.
Meadows. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
I'm wondering when the trickle out will begin in that piece.
We'll see. We'll see. Very curious about that. Yeah. But what shall I say? I think American audience are very, very welcoming, very receptive, and can be very, very enthusiastic. And probably the audiences are in a way the same way as probably orchestras play as well. Means that American soloists, singers, orchestras, according to the larger halls, have to play differently than you play in Europe, because you have smaller halls. And in Europe, where you have a certain kind of tradition as well, it's tradition of style. So detail work is very, very important to European audiences. I don't mean that is not important to American. They really appreciate. But I experience myself being in a larger hall, it sometimes can get lost. And you don't really care, because it's just, so sometimes you have to go more for the big effect somehow. And that's not, I don't want to make it sound cheap. It's just about making an impact. That's why sometimes American soloists, like string players, have a richer sound, or a more projecting sound. That's what they're taught in the music schools, where European are more taught on intimacy sometimes, on style, on phrasing, and all that stuff. That's what I have to look as well with orchestras as well. In a bigger hall, you have to make more clearer contrasts, longer periods of piano, longer periods of forte, contrasts against, to make it really clear and understandable. I think that's the major difference I have experienced until now, and that's what the audience appreciates as well at the end.
And it's, I appreciate that you make certain that you're not apologizing or saying that one of those things is less than another. It would be no different from speaking to a group of people in a very large room where you'd have to speak louder, or one-on-one across the dinner table.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's the same idea. What about for you, Maestro Aimard, the audiences in New York? We like you here. And I think that you like us, too.
Believe me. No, this is, I find amazing, sincerely speaking, how different the audiences can be. And not just only in LA and New York, but in Vienna. If you are going from one hall, the Musikverein, to the Konzerthaus you walk 100 meters and you get a completely different audience. And I find that fascinating. This shows how the cultural life is complex and how we have to pay attention to that. And I think that the industrial way of working, you make a program and you sell it all over the planet, is definitely the wrong way. It's a way of ignoring the audience that is, in my opinion, sin, if I can say so. I think if you want really to communicate the best way, to construct a relationship with an audience, that is a relationship of confidence, of education, of discovery, you have to try to analyze how different audiences react by tradition, by culture, by curiosity. And then you will construct the programs a different way. I've made the experience this season, for instance. I have decided to bring to the largest audience as possible Art of Fugue by Johann Sebastian Bach, who is, of course, the summit of every work ever composed. But that is also a work that is not easy to hear and to play. So it's not entertainment music that you can sell everywhere without problems. You have really to take care in terms of presentation and communication. And I have never been obliged, speaking with partners, leading halls or festivals, to adapt the idea so many times as with Art of Fugue, to find the right quantity of Art of Fugue at a given place, because there it would be too much. Or too lost in a hole, as you say, acoustical problems. Or this would be not enough, or this would not be understood maybe, or etc., etc. And then to find the right alchemy in programs that will really bring the spark that you need for enlightening a given piece. And it's interesting, by the way, if you play the same program or the same concert, if you go on tour, you know that by heart, and you travel through different countries, especially in Europe where distances are not as large as here, and you realize that the same evening has a different impact in this or that country or this or that town. Well, you could then think, well, but we played not that good on this night. But with recordings, for instance, the same package, let's say, the same object, really, that will be completely well received somewhere. I mean, not because people will wish to have it only, but because it is understood, it is felt as it is, or at other places just not understood. The message is not going through. And I find that extremely interesting. This shows how even with the globalization, this world remains with extremely strong local identities, attitudes or behaviors, including at the same place. And sometimes you have so many layers of possible attitudes in the same town, especially, of course, with major cities like London or Berlin or New York or others, where really different places can bring you in contact with other kind of micro-societies.
Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've had quite an hour, a chance to meet this young conductor who carries a great legacy with him and is creating his own now and making his Philharmonic debut tomorrow night. And so obviously we wish you well, and we know it will be well. And I love that the Philharmonic's getting a treat to play some music they haven't played in a while. Good for you to bring that back. And Maestro Aimard, it is wonderful to discover in an even greater way that the intellect and the probing, searching desire for what is real and all of that which exists in music is something you express not only at the keyboard, but in person as well. It's just a rich encounter. So I thank you both, gentlemen. Wish you both well tomorrow night. And I thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.